And it begins with the concept of understanding. I don't want you to fear reporters, just as you probably shouldn't fear sharks, I guess. You need to understand them. Knowledge is power, because you're going to have to deal with reporters if you're in the public eye and you're facing a crisis. So you can't hide under your desk. So much better to understand how they work. And that begins with understanding their agenda. What do they want when they're coming out to interview you? And this is advice I give in any media training session, but it's just as applicable in crisis communications. What do they want when they're coming to interview you? Well, at its heart, right at the beginning, they just want information. It's their job to inform and enlighten their audience, their readership as well. They want to know what's going on, and it's your job to do it. Accountability is a buzzword in newsrooms everywhere, and that's particularly applicable to politicians or decision makers. They're to be called to account in the way reporters ask their questions. Reporters will challenge you if you're in a position of power where you need to be answering these accountability questions, particularly pertinent in times of crisis as well. They're often seeking emotion. This is the famous "how do you feel" question. And emotional clips vary greatly. They can be anything from a fan of a basketball team that's just won the championship, celebrating outside the arena, right through along the continuum to a grieving relative who's just lost a parent or a loved one to COVID as well, and everything in between. The emotional clip, the emotional quote, is very often the one that will make it into a story. They're looking for analysis. They want to know what's going on as well. So they'll frequently be asking for your opinion about how things got to be the way they were, the way they are, and to give a bit more of an understanding about what's behind the story. At its heart, though, they want a good quote or a good clip, if it's for television or radio as well. Why? Because it makes their story look better, read better. They want to provide the information. They want to ask the tough questions as well, but they also want to present a story that's compelling, that people want to read or listen to or see. So that's what they're after. In the times of crisis, what's really important to understand is what they're also after is the human element. No matter how big the story, the hurricane, the tornado, the natural disaster, they want to tell it through the eyes of the people most affected. And to give you an example, here's a story that I covered almost exactly 10 years ago off the coast of Italy, and just recently had the 10th anniversary. And it was the wreck of the cruise liner, the Costa Concordia. Here's a short excerpt from the story, and along with the incredible images, look at who I interview.
The wreck of the Costa Concordia is a sad, morbid, and irresistible photo subject, now even captured from space. But for Kevin Rebello, the interest is very personal. You retain some hope?
I'm very hopeful. I'm very optimistic.
His brother Russell was a waiter on board, last seen helping others on deck during the evacuation. But then, nothing. His face, one of many missing, now posted on Facebook. The Italian government is now declaring a state of emergency for this area in order to free up extra funds in case they need to deal with an environmental disaster.
So you may have noticed that mine was not the only microphone in speaking with Mr. Rebello. There were literally hundreds of reporters swarming the island. And when he appeared and really wanted to tell his brother's story and try to get the word out in hopes that his brother would be found, naturally, we all wanted to speak to him. Sadly, he never did find his brother. The body of his brother was only found years later when the ship was being cut up for scrap in the scrapyard as well. But it's important to understand that it's that human element. That's who reporters will always gravitate to understand who's been harmed by this, whatever the event might be.